So we will start this evening with 2-minute opening statements, and we're going to start with Paloma Saucedo.
Can you hear me? I'll put this closer to my mouth. There we go. So first of all, I want to thank you for putting together this forum, and I'm really excited to see the intentionality around language and this being a multicultural and multilingual space. I'm completely impressed to see the ASL interpreter and to know that we have interpreting equipment that just, as a former certified medical interpreter and social justice interpreter and community interpreter, it just makes my heart want to explode when I see this kind of spaces. So my name is Paloma Saucedo, and I'm a social worker, an educator, a mother, an immigrant, proud and now queer Latina. And I came from Mexico many years ago, and I made Harrisonburg my home. Me and my children have called Harrisonburg home for a long time. And I love the friendly city, and I wanted to live up to its name, to be truly a friendly, welcoming city for everybody in the city. So that's why I'm running for city council. And I'm running as an independent, as you may already know, because I want to create independent political power that holds our official bodies accountable. And I want for this, our campaign and our movement is based truly in grassroots organizer. I have been an organizer in the community for close to 10 years. I was involved with the anti-jail campaign, the anti-287G campaign, and many other grassroots-led initiatives in this city. So that's why I decided to take this step to really create independent power and create a movement and join into the social movement that's already happening and strive for social justice in our city. And I really thank you very much for being here, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Paloma. Next, Frank McMillan.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I understand what it takes to raise a family in the city of Harrisonburg. Both of my boys started out in elementary school here in Harrisonburg. They went on to middle school and then graduated from Harrisonburg High School. My stepdaughter graduated from James Madison University. My wife works at JMU for over 20 years. I've been involved in the community in local nonprofits throughout living in the city of Harrisonburg, from the United Way to the Rotary Club, the Chamber of Commerce, Compeer. I've been involved in many boards. I believe in giving back to the community, and that's part of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Education is very important to me. I believe that we should be able to take some of our monies towards education instead of building elaborate buildings, put them more towards the educators. The environment is very important to me. Having a sustainable future, whether we take all of the city buildings that we possibly can and convert them to LED lighting, more efficient, the street lights and other things throughout the city, where we could possibly use solar. If it makes sense, let's do it. Employment, that's what I do. Find people jobs. We need to find high-paying jobs for this local area so that our students from James Madison University, EMU, and Bridgewater want to stay in the valley and have a reason that there's high-tech jobs available for them. We have a high-tech industrial park here on the north side of town that we need to be building and bringing new, exciting businesses into our community.
Thank you, Frank. Chris Jones.
Good evening, everybody. Y'all can do better than that. Good evening.
Yay.
We're going to have a good time. I appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much to the Association of Realtors, the Bicycle Coalition, and to those individuals from James Madison University. Thank you for putting this on. And to the city of Harrisonburg for letting us use this lovely facility. I'm Chris Jones, asking for one of your 2 votes on November 6th. You get to vote for 2 of us. I'm asking for one of those votes. Here are 4 of the things that I believe we need to work on in the future very quickly. 1, proactive when it comes to public education. Whether you're for building a high school, whether you're against building a high school, whatever your thoughts are about education, I think we can all agree on this, that we've moved in a reactive state and not a proactive state. And it costs you more money when you're working from behind the 8 ball. Number 2, loving thy neighbor. We've all heard the amount of individuals that are asset limited, income constrained, and employed. We've got to find a way to help those individuals. 26% of the people in this city are at poverty or below. We've got to find higher paying wage jobs for our blue collar workers, and we've got to find more training opportunities for those individuals that are white collar. If death or sickness hits those individuals, they're in a downward tailspin. And then quickly, we've got to hire a sustainability coordinator. This recycling program has went to hell in a handbasket, and we've got to fix it fast. And in addition, as you learned last night, our justice planner. We don't have the data we need to make effective decisions with our justice system because we need to hire a justice planner, period, point blank. My name is Chris Jones. I'll be on the top of that ballot, Christopher B. Jones, and I'm asking for one of your 2 votes so we can continue to build a better Burg. And we only build that better Burg together.
Thank you. Carolyn Frank.
Thank you, and thank you for being here. I believe it's time to speak truth, the whole truth, frankly and boldly. What do you do when you have massive debt already on the books, big expensive projects in the pipeline, and limited borrowing power? A community that is 60% access limited, income constrained, and employed. It's called ALICE, and it was done by our United Way. We need public discussion about every important issue in Harrisonburg, and it should be vigorous and far-reaching discussion where everyone is included, from our newest to our most established residents. We can encourage the process and honor the participants by treating disagreement with respect and by risking debate and troubling issues that might not be resolved immediately. All of our competing interests, ideas, values, and needs must be brought to the table for democracy to remain healthy and for good decisions to be made. Level 1 thinking is, we need to do something and we need to do it now. Level 2 thinking could include, what is the impact to our taxes, to our senior citizens, to economic development? So we need to move past level 1 to level 2 and be very honest and frank about that. I ran for city council for the financial health of our city because I believe it's important to the residents now, and I believe it's important to our future. Future decisions must be economically viable, environmentally sound, and socially responsible. We have to prioritize, have strategy, and we need financial planning in the city budget. We have to identify and implement and have innovative ways to solve our problems.
Thank you. And Sel Romero.
Good evening. I need to begin by apologizing that the glare of my head is in your eyes. I cannot help it, I wish I could. And I did have hair when I was in high school, Jackie. My daughter just walked in and I'm really nervous actually. So my name is Sal Romero. I am delighted to be here today to share with you why I'm running for city council. So I came to this country, to this city back in 1991. One of very few Hispanics at Broadway High School, which was really not an easy place to go to school. As an immigrant, as a non-speaker, having very few friends, or actually no friends at one point, and really not liking a whole lot of the Valley, which, 27 years later, I love this place and this is my home. I struggled in school, but I never gave up. I went to Blue Ridge Community College despite being encouraged not to go to school and to further my education. I was told I needed to go straight into the workforce. I was fortunate to graduate from Blue Ridge, JMU, and Shenandoah University. I've been able to be an assistant principal, a teacher, a homeschool liaison, second home's first director. I also created a soccer league here in Harrisonburg, which now serves about 600 players. I was named to the State Board of Education in 2014 by Governor McAuliffe. I've sat on multiple boards around the city. More importantly, I want to continue to give back to the city that has given me so much. I have a vision for Harrisonburg. I want stronger schools. I want an updated infrastructure. I want to see us work together to make sure that the homeless have a place to go to sleep every night. I want us to work together to reduce incarceration like it's been talked before. I want us to talk about how do we continue to make our city a welcoming place where everybody feels like this is a place where they can spend the rest of their lives. I encourage you to keep learning more about me because this is not long enough. My name is Sal Romero, and please vote for me on November 2nd. Perfect. 0. Sounded low.
I'm really hoping this is a good sign because all of them stayed within the 2-minute mark. So congratulations. We are now going to start with our 4 prepared questions. And the first person who will start the first question is Frank McMillan, and he'll have 90 seconds. I'll repeat the question if others down the road need me to repeat it. The question is, the trend in vibrant, growing cities is to expand biking and walking infrastructure. What do you think are the primary obstacles to this type of expansion, and what are ways you might work to remove those obstacles?
When we add bike paths to the roads become safer. We keep those cars driving safe because when we narrow the road, it slows the cars down. And it allows promoting bicyclists and cars to be on the same area. It improves low carbon emissions, and it's better for the environment. That being said, the clear obstacle in that is financing. However, we need to stop looking at this as an expense. We need to think about this as more as an investment for a sustainable future for Harrisonburg. Having more vibrant community means a better quality of life for people, having a better place for them to be able to get around, whether it be walking, biking, to be able to travel from one side of the city to the next freely without the fear of getting run over by a car. That helps promote the quality of life in Harrisonburg. When you increase the quality of life in Harrisonburg, you are going to attract more companies, better paying jobs. The companies that have the high-tech jobs, they want a high quality of life for their employees. And that is one way that we can do that. So we need to stop looking at it as strictly a financial situation, but as more of an investment in the city's future.
Thank you. Chris Jones?
Would you repeat the question?
Sure. The trend in vibrant, growing cities is to expand biking and walking infrastructure.
Yes.
What do you think are the primary obstacles to this type of expansion, and what are ways you might work to remove those obstacles?
Okay. I've got 4 jobs. So I'm a father and a husband. I sell TV commercials and digital campaigns at WHSV. I'm served on the board of my church, and fortunately about 4,000 of you all elected me to be on city council. And one day in the midst of doing all those jobs, I was texting individuals from the Bike Coalition. And they were letting me know about the obstacles that they ran into when it came to a biking and walking path that was being sought. And so I went down to City Hall and began to ask questions. I said, and the issue was the land adjacent to the golf course. The question was whether the individual that didn't want to sell the land to us, didn't want the bike path there. I said, well, why aren't we using the land that's on the golf course? Golfers don't use the edge of a golf course anyway, except for golfers like me. Will you believe that the only reason why those conversations weren't had was because of the natural, invisible silos between Parks and Rec and Public Works? They didn't hate each other. They just didn't know to work together, and no one asked. So fortunately, the conversations I had with Richie Vaughn and our community conversations, the conversations I had with Kyle Lawrence and other individuals in the Bike Coalition, in 2020, in spring of 2020, you're going to see a bike path and a walking path right in the golf course. Didn't cost the public any land from any private individuals. It saved us money, and now we're going to be even more bikeable and walkable. To overcome obstacles, it takes conversations, it takes doing the job and working together.
Thank you, Chris. Carolyn Frank.
Great work, Chris and the biking community. I think of the obstacles, of course, is safety and heavy car and truck traffic. And some of us have a reliance on cars. And then there's always, I think when it's inconvenient to walk, and when it's inconvenient to drive, then we are more prone to walk and bike. So we have ample parking, and then that makes us use our cars. So in big cities, there's no parking, so people ride their bikes, they walk, they find other ways to have transportation. I was on city council when we made a bicycle part of our traffic and safety committee, and they have done an excellent job promoting biking and walking paths. I want to see that continue. I saw where they're hiring somebody. I hope there's going to be grant money out there, because I enjoy bicycling also, but I'm not a good bicycler. So I want to feel safe. So I want to commend them for hosting this and for the work that they've done and will continue to do. And if I'm a part of city council, then I want to work with you to keep that progress going forward.
Thank you. Sal Romero.
So I believe that, it is because of agencies and organizations like the Shenandoah Valley Bike Coalition that we have a better infrastructure in place for walkers and riders today than we did 10 years ago. I know my family and I enjoy the Bluestone Trail, which has been open for a little while. We enjoy riding our bikes, walking our dog, and that's something we do regularly. When I was in the school as a building administrator, we created some walking school buses. We actually still do with some of the schools. We had walking Fridays, walk to school day, and those kinds of days. So I believe, creating that culture, starting with our students in the schools, is critically important. So we need to continue to do that. I believe the two barriers that I see include funding, but nevertheless, we have to say as well that funding can be solved through grants, through collaborative efforts that we can do with organizations who have similar interests. So funding can be something that I, as a city council, can support once in office, but as well through grants. Additionally, I think the awareness piece is still something that we need to continue to work together as a community. I believe that as you look around, we don't see the diverse city that we have, and we need to create more intentional opportunities that allow everyone, because biking and walking is predominantly important in every country that you can think about. So I think there's a larger population that needs to know about what we're doing to create these opportunities for them to benefit. And I can do that because family engagement and community engagement is what I do with my work, and we will create intentional opportunities so that the broader community can be a part of these efforts.
Thank you. And Paloma Salcedo.
So our perception has been that the primary obstacle to the expansion of bike paths and walking paths is how the city chooses to distribute the resources in our city. We need to be able to expand the biking and walking infrastructure in all areas of our city, not just the wealthier neighborhoods. We recently had a bike ride sponsored by our campaign to highlight this issue. And many areas in our city do not have bike lanes or walking paths, and it makes it unsafe, if not impossible, to use cleaner, greener, healthier modes of transportation. I had two concerns the day of the bike ride. One, that I would die of a heart attack because I hadn't exercised in a long time. Two, that I would get hit by a car. And I was happy that neither of those things came true, but after biking for about 10 miles, I realized that I was more likely to get hit by a car than to actually die from a heart attack. So really the lack of prioritization to this kind of infrastructures, maybe not given the importance that we need to seek and obtain federal grants or private grants to improve this infrastructure. And we also see that sometimes the city may authorize deals with construction companies that will either build like facilities or warehouses in Harrisonburg, and they don't include the cost of sidewalks and biking paths. And we also see that it's happening, that it's moving towards that, but it's unclear at what speed this is going to happen and when we're going to see the complete transition to this kind of culture. And that's also because we have a culture of cars. We are used to going, oh, sorry, I see the stop sign. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Our next question, Chris will start with this one. Knowing that I jumped ahead. Affordable housing is a major concern for many area families.
Indeed.
What do you support to help ease the housing crunch for local workforce families, and are there any steps that government can take to alleviate homelessness?
Well, two things. I'm excited about this question because I've talked to engineers, builders. I turned in answers to the Realtors Association, And I've talked to a lot of developers, and what we run up into, when we run against, and then I talk to private citizens that have land that they want to invest in. What individuals are looking to do from the investment side is build smaller units. And I've got 4 kids, the 6 of us. Most people don't have families that big all the time anymore. They're smarter. But for those that the average don't, individuals are looking for lower priced homes, but they want single family homes. What we gotta do is build smaller units. We need to decrease our lot sizes so we can get more homes onto per acre for our builders so that we can lower costs, right? We've got zoning there, but we've got to tighten it up. I believe the hurdle was with our fire marshal. I talked to the fire chief, and we've come up with some creative ways to get over that hurdle so that we can decrease the space in between those homes. And here's the beauty of it. The baby boomers that want to sell their larger homes, that will create space. They can then downsize, and then smaller families that can't afford those larger homes, we can build less expensive ones. So what you see in Chatham Square, we can build smaller, more affordable versions of that for both ends of the spectrum. It'll be beautiful for Harrisonburg.
Thank you. Carolyn Frank?
When I was on city council from 2006 to 2010, our city council, along with staff, addressed that problem of smaller lots. We developed the R5 through R7 zoning, which made the lot size smaller, but still provided green space so that a community would have a place for their children to play. And then it kept the density from getting too high. So, and then we also changed floor height restrictions, realizing that land was a premium and that we needed to go up instead of out. We developed economic development zones that were designated with incentives to encourage downtown development, and that worked. We have a lot of downtown development. I worked with Hope Builders that built homes for low-income people to get more homes on a site. So I have a track record of doing things like that, and I think we're moving in the right direction.
Thank you. Sal Romero?
So over the last few years, I really have learned a lot about affordable housing. I think it's more important to also, it is important to also acknowledge that I know what it is to live and to be looking for affordable housing over the years, as I lived in a trailer with my family for 13 years out at the Valley View Trailer Park, northeast of the city. So I know what it is like. I know families who live in a trailer right now who people may think that's fairly affordable. Well, let me tell you, it is not. When you pay $500 for the lot, that is not affordable. So we need to look at not only the people that are looking for affordable housing, but the people who are currently living in situations that need to be looked into. I think that a situation like this requires a collaborative effort. I think that we need to bring people together, and that's one thing that I think I can do well, bring people together from the builders to the lenders to the residents, developers, nonprofits, because this is a concern that impacts all of us. I think that the solution is not in any one person up here, but it is within the community. I think we can solve it together. I think that we have a great opportunity to do something unique and different. I think we also have an opportunity to look outside of Harrisonburg in other communities who are doing really innovative things. I think that as far as the homeless, I think that we have a couple of opportunities. We are not offering tax credits to the elderly or to people who are making a certain amount of money, a certain income. So we need to explore things that we're not doing right now that would really benefit communities that are struggling day to day.
Thank you. Paloma Salcedo?
So I see housing as a human right. And one of the points in my platform is to promote dignified and energy efficient housing for everyone in Harrisonburg. And as the executive director at Valley AIDS Network, I got to work really closely with people affected by homelessness, not only individuals, but also families. And so I think that the most important thing is to include those people that are affected by it in our conversations so that we make decisions with the people that are being impacted by this at the table, not just make decisions over people and people's lives. And we need to, well, if we look at the percentages in Harrisonburg, only 37% of people own a house in Harrisonburg. So it's important that we understand what is driving homelessness and what is preventing people from acquiring a home. So some of these are access to credit. If you have poor or bad credit, it's really difficult to get a house. Employment, if you're unemployed or if you're not paid a living wage. The housing supply, the land availability, and the home and development cost. The city has, or the Harrisonburg Redevelopment and Housing Authority has a 10-year plan, and those goals were established, and they are great goals that I think we can work with and really implement that plan. And strengthening partnerships with social services and health services and nonprofit agencies as well.
Thank you. And Frank McMillan.
Restrictions, we need to look at cases individually and not use a standard cookie cutter approach. For example, zoning requirements need to be enforced when they make sense and not necessarily enforced when they don't make sense. The approval process is long. The longer it goes, the more cost that it adds to the developer, which in turn passes the cost on to the prospective buyer of the house. So we need to tighten that up. I don't have all the solutions in this. I'm looking forward to working with the realtors, the builders in the community at large to be able to figure out the best way. Lot size restrictions, narrowing them down, making them smaller, be able to make a house more affordable. Houses for starter homes would be great to have them in Harrisonburg, not 5 and 6 bedroom homes, but a small 1, 2, or 3 bedroom homes would be great. Loosen the restrictions, make it so that the builders can build it in a cost-effective manner, so that they could sell it in a cost-effective way, so that a homeowner can buy a home that costs $100,000 to $150,000 rather than the median price in Harrisonburg being well over $200,000 and some $1,000, which is not affordable housing for somebody that makes the average wages in the Shenandoah Valley.
We'll move on to our next question, which is a little bit broader of a question, and Carol and Frank will start on this. Knowing that a community has more needs than resources, what criteria would you use to make decisions about where resources are allocated? How will you balance present needs with long-term benefits?
Well, number one is public safety. We all need to feel safe in our home, at work, at school. So the resources, we need to adequately fund our police department. We don't need a revolving door at the police station. We don't need to train officers to go to other community. But one of the questions I think that we should be asking is, how do we bring resources to the city to meet our pressing needs? And one thing that we have to be attractive, and we have to be competitive to other communities. You can't look 2 or 3 hours down the road and see what their tax rate is or what their income level is. You have to look here in Harrisonburg. You have to look to your neighbors, Rockingham County. Rockingham County now has a lower tax rate than what the city of Harrisonburg does. If we keep spending and borrowing the way that projections that we have, then we're going to be much more expensive to live in the city than Rockingham County. So we have to bring resources to the city. We have to be attractive to businesses. They have to want to locate here. We need higher paying jobs. So we have to think of ways to bring resources to our city. And we certainly don't want to make the city unaffordable and drive our resources out. And one of them would be retired citizens who are on a limited income. We want to keep them in the city because they use very little resources.
Thank you. Sal Romero.
I think the great news is that people want to come to the city. I used to get calls all the time when I was in the city schools because people wanted to come and visit our schools because they were looking to move to the city. We have a lot of great businesses, a lot of great universities, a lot of great infrastructure in place that allows for people to want to come here. I think we must continue to invest in education because that's really the best investment that we can make. I believe that public safety is critical for us to live in a place where we feel safe and comfortable. I believe that we also have to keep in mind, as I said, education for all of our students, a high quality education. I think that we oftentimes don't talk about infrastructure, but we get fresh water every day. We have nice roads to travel. We have great services that we are offer each and every day, and we have to keep those things in mind. So we need to continue to keep those things at the top of the discussion with everyone that we speak with. I also think that oftentimes it's simple for us to sit up here and to say what we think is important. But I think we need to talk to you guys in front of us and to seek feedback on a regular basis as to what is important and what matters to you. Also to get out into the community and to ask, disenfranchised citizens who oftentimes don't come to the city council meetings. So it's a community discussion, it's a community decision making, and I think we can come up with great solutions if we look at all the voices in the city and we bring them together for a substantial conversation.
Thank you. Paloma Salcedo.
Thank you. So it's easy. We gotta invest, we gotta divest, and we gotta review. We gotta invest in our community. And by that I mean investing in our people. Investing in people and creating leadership opportunities for people of color and other marginalized populations. And we need to divest from criminalization. We need to stop criminalizing poor people, people of color, queer and trans people. We also need to review unnecessary projects that we have in the city, such as the golf course and the Middle River Jail in contrast with the detention center. I am really happy to hear that there will be a bike path along the golf course, because now we can turn that into affordable housing. And now the affordable housing that we have there, then people will have access to a bike path and they will be able to walk to school. How amazing is that? So that comes, to the review. And so the guideline is really easy. Who is benefiting from the project? Is this being done transparently? What do multiple sectors of our community are saying about this project? Is there anyone being affected or not included in the conversation? Is this project improving the lives of people with disabilities, improving the lives of people that are homeowners, improving the lives of our children, etc.? So easy, invest, divest, review, and be transparent.
Thank you. Frank McMillan.
As I mentioned before, we need to take a look at each individual circumstances to find real benefits in the cost decisions that are on there. If elected, I plan to take a long look at where we need to spend our funds, and I'm sure there's certain areas that we can relocate and reallocate. I plan to apply a common sense approach and outside the box solutions. There is no gain without pain. We must hold off on spending money in certain areas from time to time. We need to take a look at the financial decisions the same way we do our home. When we need to buy something for our house, sometimes we have to hold off for a while before we spend it, until it makes financial sense for us to do that. The city's no different than that. We need to have those common sense approaches to the city budget as we do our own personal budgets. We need to work on entering in to fix the overcrowding at the Harrisonburg High School now. We've had councilmen that talked about how it's important to fix it and build a school now, but not look at any solutions to be able to alleviate the problems today, like sending more kids to Massanutten Technical Center, working in a partnership with Blue Ridge Community College to be able to take that. We can alleviate 50% of the overcrowding of the students today if we would just have outside the box common sense approaches, other than just looking at spending money to fix a problem.
Thank you. And Chris Jones.
I tell you, it benefits to be at the table when you're having these conversations, and then you learn how to fix these problems. And so, unfortunately, for the last 4 years plus, because before I was a councilman, I made sure that I had a seat at the table. Water, education, public safety, public works, they're non-negotiables. Social services, the judicial system, other joint projects, I mean, a lot of that eats up most of the budget. And then a big chunk goes to the public school system. But it'd be a great investment, for example, for the judicial system if we hired a justice planner, because through grants, 80% of the people that are in our prisons right now, in our jail right now, we don't have a prison, in our jail right now are nonviolent offenders, okay? With a justice planner, we can make sure that those individuals, we lower that rate of recidivism and incarceration. This failed recycling program that we have right now, if we hire a sustainability coordinator we would be in a position where we wouldn't be right now. We'd be in a position where we had somebody on the spot that was thinking and ready to react when we lost that relationship with Troy, Virginia, when we had 100% recycling. Here's the thing, we've got to find positions that help pay for themselves, like these two that I just mentioned. And as far as needs with long-term benefits, that would not cost us more than the position payout. And that happens with both of those positions. And overall, it takes us making sure that the thumbprint of Harrisonburg, our DNA, is on top of these things. You see, I've had more citizens come to me and say, Chris, I want to pay for more and not receive. I'm sorry, I have to stop.
Thank you, Chris. We are on to our final prepared questions, so now's the time for you to start thinking about questions that you'd like to ask and fill out those forms. And after this last question, we'll be sending people around to pick them up. Sal Romero will start on this one. Let's ask them to be a little bit vulnerable here. What is one unpopular decision that you think needs to be made to shape Harrisonburg? How would you work to convince people that this decision will have positive benefits?
I think that oftentimes every decision that you make is unpopular because there's always going to be people on the other side of the aisle who don't agree with you. I believe that education would be my answer because if we look around, I might ask you, do you ever go to the grocery store? Do you ever go to the doctor? Do you go to the mechanic? And your answer would be yes. So everywhere you go in the community, you're going to see young people who are working, who hopefully we were able to do a great job in our schools to provide them a sound education, a quality education, so that they are able to be successful where they are. So education, I will vote for the second high school to be built as soon as possible because we cannot afford to allow more of our students to not get the high quality education. And if you don't have children in the city schools, you will still benefit by having students who are prepared to be out in society, to help in our community, to volunteer in nursing homes, and to be contributors to this community that we all love. So vote education. Whether you have children or not, education is the way that we can instill in our kids the value of community, the value of giving back. And my hope is that when we do that, our kids will be able to stay here because they don't want to go anywhere else to find other opportunities because we have everything they need here to be successful and to be happy.
Thank you. Paloma Salcedo.
So really, any decision that upsets the power imbalance in our community is very unpopular. Building a second high school, but not only a second high school, but a high school that provides the exact same programs and opportunities to all children. Addressing systemic racism in our institutions. The city is 20% Latino. Do we have 20% of our city employees that are Latinos? Do we have 10% of them that are Latinos? Even 5%? So addressing that, addressing discrimination based on gender identity in our institution, declaring Harrisonburg a sanctuary city, making sure that we separate local law enforcement from ICE, implementing policies that decriminalize and reduce arrest, create programs and organizations that support trans and gender non-conforming individuals, etc. So really any of those decisions that are gonna imbalance that are gonna be unpopular decisions. And we have to start simply by making the decision of acknowledging that those issues exist in our community. And that's the only way to shape Harrisonburg into the friendly and welcoming city that we want for everyone.
Thank you. Frank McMillan.
Government serves a vital purpose in our lives and in the community. It helps pay for things like education, roads, infrastructure, you name it. One of the things that may be unpopular is that I want to maintain and keep a stable tax rate in the city. We need a voice of reason on the city council, someone who understands finances and numbers. The city is in the Commonwealth watch list for cities most likely to default. If we're not careful, we're going to reach that point. We need to stop raising our taxes. In the last 4 years, our taxes have gone up from 69 cents a hundred to 85 cents a hundred since 2015. If we keep raising our taxes and good businesses don't come to Harrisonburg because of that, and that we don't have a vibrant city with sidewalks and bike paths, and we keep going down the path that we're going, we're not going to be able to bring in the high-tech companies, to bring in the high-tech jobs. We'll have the higher wages, which will employ individuals with higher wages, which means a better tax base for the city of Harrisonburg. To have a vibrant, thriving economy, we need to maintain a stable tax rate And we also need to be able to do that for our senior citizens. Those that are on a fixed income, those that they know exactly what their expenses are, but the city keeps throwing in additional increases to them every year, but their income stays the same. They're going to have to ultimately wind up selling their house and moving out of the city of Harrisonburg because of our government.
Thank you. Chris Jones.
Just for your education, there was not a tax increase, and in fact, there was an increase of 3% for all real estate in Harrisonburg this year.
Well, those don't come sort out.
Well, we're not having those kind of comments, sorry.
Whoa, that's not in the rules you just signed. May I start over, please, ma'am?
Yes.
That was completely
Yes.
inappropriate. Completely inappropriate. Are you finished?
Gentlemen, please. We have questions and we have people that have other questions they want to ask.
I just wanted
Thank
to
you.
go, but he wasn't speaking. Okay. What is one unpopular decision that you need to be made to shape Harrisonburg? How would you work to convince people that this decision will have positive benefits? Private-public partnerships. What we did with the hotel, with Hotel Madison, by helping and assisting them with the conference center, not a popular decision at all. In fact, I'm thankful that I received your votes and was elected in order to see that those jobs and those tourism dollars are coming to Harrisonburg. If you look at the south end of town, the north end of town, the west end of town, the east end of town, you'll see some decaying retail. As beautiful as Harrisonburg downtown is right now, you don't see a lot of retail. I would love to see us partner up as economic development. We partner up with other individuals, with investors, with individuals that want to come in and revamp and rework those shopping centers. I would love to see individuals come in, revamp and rework opportunities and create jobs for individuals, help to beautify and bring back to life those the edges of our city as well. I mean, I love what we're doing downtown. But in addition to what's happening on the edges of our city, I look at the decaying infrastructure of our parking decks. The unpopular thing to do, don't kill me when I say it, is take Water Street offline. We take Water Street offline and we revamp it. We've got to rebuild it. I would love to see it turn into some form of mixed use. I'd love to see some form of retail plus parking happening there so we can move Harrisonburg forward. Thank you.
And Carolyn Frank.
Okay. I've spent a lot of time out in the community these last few months campaigning and talking to people. So education and taxes is the number one thing that comes up. And basically education is the new high school. You know, I love kids. I love helping them. I spent a lot of time in this community developing programs for children and advocating for abused and neglected children. But you know, my children live in California, and my grandchildren, and they go to forest school where they develop creativity and imagination and working together, teamwork. And that's what we need here in our education system. Now, I don't know that fancy buildings make great students, but if we could imagine a high school where the community is the classroom, where students master academic knowledge and skills by diving into challenging projects in partnership with local business, tech institutions, civic organizations, and nonprofits, with a clear focus on students, where students have ownership and responsibility for how they learn, where learning is based on each student's need. So as we build for the 21st century education, you know, I don't know that it's going to be in bricks and mortar. We need all students prepared for college and careers. And we have real opportunities, but we need quality teachers and we need mentors. And so it's going to take money to do that. And that's where my focus would be.
Thank you. So now we're going to turn to some of your questions. So if I can get some of my hosts, Kyle and Bob, to help collect questions for me, that would be great. And I will start flipping through them. These are long questions. Get ready. Lori? tell you whether you're going to get 60 or 90 seconds, depending on the question. I haven't seen these, so hang on. Some good things. I'll get to as many as we can. At this stage, also, I will let whoever wants to start, and then each of you will have a chance to contribute. Okay? So we'll start with this one here. This is from a concerned citizen. The city of Harrisonburg has dramatically increased funding to the local SPCA, and thanks to a strong spay-neuter program, intake rates have dropped by over 45% since 2005. Despite this, the shelter still puts down roughly 50% of cats and dogs each year, compared to similar shelters in Augusta, Winchester, Lynchburg, and Charlottesville, whose euthanasia rates are under 10%. Would you support making Harrisonburg a no-kill community? I'm going to give you just 30 seconds on this question. Sorry, Lauren. Make it 60. Go ahead. We don't have a timer for it. Paloma, it looks like you would like to start.
Thanks. I've actually had conversations with both the SPCA leadership and leadership from a group of concerned citizens, I think it's called Citizens for Animal Welfare. And it was very informative. I'm an animal lover. I have 3 dogs, 2 cats, and a ferret currently, and a baby and 2 teenagers. So my house is just, packed with life. So I definitely support moving towards a no-kill mentality, but we really need to be able to collaborate, the city with the SPCA, with other shelters in the area, so that we can understand each other and understand what being a no-kill shelter means and what the percentages mean and what they mean for our city. It was, like I said, very informative to be able to talk to both agencies and other citizens concerned, and we need to continue the conversations. Thank you.
Who else would like to contribute? Sal?
Sure, I'm happy. So I likewise have had some conversations with several people. Dan Chavez contacted me last week, and we actually had lunch downtown, supporting downtown, obviously. And we talked about the current practices of Anacera and also the SPCA. I have yet to contact the SPCA, which I plan on doing. What I see right now, what is happening is that, yes, the funding for SPCA is increasing, but so is the number of animals that are being euthanized. I am an animal lover as well. Peanut is part of our family. I never thought I would say this in public, but Peanut sleeps in my bed sometimes. That's how much I love my dog. And so I am very interested in really finding a solution that really moves us forward in innovative ways that allow for animals to have a second opportunity, because they can bring you so much joy to our life. My kids love our dog, and I want to continue the conversation, because I think that there are some things that are happening locally, and we need to duplicate those efforts here in the city of Harrisonburg.
Anybody else want to contribute to that one?
Well, I just know that recently, and Chris probably can address this more, that there was funding appropriated by Rockingham County and the city of Harrisonburg, because animal welfare is a joint venture between the city and county. And so we did, the city council and the county board of supervisors had a study done to look at the practices of the SPCA, and I think that, I'm pretty sure they voted to stay with the SPCA. But I have not looked at that study, but I would be glad to talk to anyone from Anacera to get additional input.
Anyone else?
She pulled me in.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, Carolyn. And she's right. It's a joint. All right. So we do that with the county. But it's like everything else. Everybody needs champions, right? The high school wasn't voted on because we only had 2 champions on council for it, not 3, right? When it comes to animal welfare, right now we have lots of champions and lots of concerned councilmen. I think we all are when it comes to that. Currently, and I think in the future. The issue is this. The private organization that reached out to us decided to step away from that program that they were reaching out for. SPCA, we're obligated with them as a joint venture with the county, but we are assessing them on a quarterly basis, okay? We had the major assessment, we called for that, I believe, 2 years ago, and now we're gonna meet with them quarterly more often, hold them more accountable and more responsible so that we can hopefully start to see a trend in that euthanasia rate. If we don't see that, then we'll be sure to hold their feet to the fire, definitely.
Frank?
I think after a long, hard day of work, when you go home, a smiling child and a smiling pet that greets you at the door is something that helps relieve the stress of a long day. I've had some conversations recently with some current city councilmen in regards to this program. And it is a joint venture between the city and the county. And if we were to pull out, the funds that we've expended into this, we would potentially lose some of the infrastructure that we've put in. We would have to develop our own situation, our own private kennel. There's a lot that's studying that needs to be done on this to make sure we're doing what's best for the community and what's best for the animals involved.
Okay. There are a number of questions. I'm going to try and group some of them so that we get to hear a lot of this. A lot of people are concerned about transportation and traffic. So a couple of things, and you can decide what to talk about here is how would you address things like the new bird scooters that have been dropped into our community for transportation? For those of you who don't know, there's our motorized scooters that a company lets you use by credit card. What will you do about current traffic in the city? This is a concerned city senior resident who says they're a daily witness to either or victim of a near miss, rolling through stop signs and speeding. And what about a beltway, or what are we going to do about I-81? So I'm going to leave that whole mess in your laps. You can answer all or parts of it. Sorry, Chris.
Frank was giving me a hard time.
Man,
It's all right, it's work.
no, we're not done yet.
There's a lot of really good questions. I'm doing my best.
I-81, we have to go to our legislators in Richmond and demand that. That is not funded by the city of Harrisonburg.
Well, I tell you, the scooters, I like them. The wife and I, we have 3 of them. We have 2. Our grandson has 1. And we like the scooters. But obviously, that's part of that whole biking community thing that we need to help develop and get along with. Bicyclists running, stoplights, and stuff like that. I witness it almost all the time. And it's kind of a respect thing. If you want respect, then give respect. If you're on a bike and you pull up at a stop sign and you look both ways and you blow right through it, then I have to sit there as a car and have to sit there and wait because I'm following the traffic laws. That's not a respect issue. You want me to share the road with you, I'll be glad to do that. But let's have equal and joint respect as we do that. And I think that's one of the best ways that we, with the biking community, because I have bicycles. I ride on the streets also. So we want to share the roads, but we need to show respect on both sides of that coin. And again, 81 is, God help us, that's a state and federal issue.
So there's a big push to improve I-81, and like I said, you got to talk to the Congress, you got to talk to the U.S. Senate on that. We need all the help. We may have to talk to Jesus, Muhammad, and Buddha on that. Talk to anybody else you got out there, okay, to fix that. In regards to the scooters, I love the bird scooters. It's 2 things. I told my buddy Kyle this, Lawrence. I said I love the scooters. It's going to be good because it's less cars. It gets people out and they can move quickly. And when people move quickly, they can spend more money in our town. So that's great. More retail money. Love that. But what I don't want to see is brain injury. What I don't want to see is car accidents. So put a helmet on. Let's be smart about this. And let's be kind when we put them up, when we sit them down, okay? I believe you're paid if you charge them, and you can pick them up where you find them randomly. But again, Harrisonburg, we've been real good to each other. We're good neighbors. This is a peaceful place. It's a kind place. And so let's keep that attitude, okay? And let's transcend that attitude when we're sharing the road. The #1 way to stay walkable, bikeable, and safe overall, as Frank alluded to, is being respectful. But even more than that, treat people the way that you would want to be treated. Treat people with love and decency, and we're going to be a lot smoother, okay? So and be careful. Watch out for our students, college and high school, that are going to be riding these things. We bought my son one when he was 12. He did a great job with his, but he always wore a helmet.
Anybody else?
So,
Then go ahead, pull over and that's out.
So we need to shift the culture and make it a culture of walking and biking and healthier modes of transportation. So I don't know if you've heard of ciclovías, which is basically bike paths. But many other cities and countries in the world hold these ciclovías like on a weekly basis, and they'll invite all the community to come out to the streets. They'll block the streets, and people can just walk their pets and use their bicycles, and that promotes that change in culture. I would use that for traffic, start changing our culture towards that. And the birds downtown, the little scooters, they're great. I tried one and I was not too sure about it. But I go back to the same issue of access. When I came to this country, I was undocumented for many years. I could not have a credit card. Then I got my green card finally, and I got my social, and I was like, yes, but guess what? My social was new, so I couldn't get a credit card because I had no credit. So no credit is basically the same as bad credit. So if these are only accessible to people with credit cards, are we really improving the quality of life of everyone or just some? What about the people that need and have that barrier of transportation the most, who are usually people that live on, with limited resources and may not have a credit card? So again, I want to always make decisions thinking about all of us and all of us having the same access and quality of life.
Sal?
So I was actually downtown on Friday. I'm downtown a lot, and saw Kyle hop on a scooter for the first time. And as they just appear in town, as I asked him what these were about, he had no idea other than to say that they were just in town. And anyway, so he got on one of those and scooted away. Looked like a lot of fun. I think I'm in favor of those. I haven't had a chance to ride them. I would like to see the city and somehow, or an organization actually take the lead in being able to work with this company in a way that we can pilot this. I think it's critical for the community to know that these are here, that they're in the streets, and to have some sort of norms and expectations as well, because I already have seen them, on the sidewalks, and given not everybody that walks on our sidewalks can see clearly like we all can. So we need to be aware of some of the potential issues and be proactive instead of reactive. So I would love to see some sort of a campaign that is really out to let people know that these are here, they're here to stay hopefully, but here are the norms and the expectations, and our hope is that we hold each other as neighbors accountable for using them properly and safely.
Anybody else want to chime in on that? Okay, we have lots of good questions, so we'll move on. Here's our next one. Although the development of our city is greatly influenced by the planning and development of JMU, there's little evidence to show a long-term plan between the two. In your position, how would you create and keep a strong bond between Harrisonburg City Planning, Public Works, and JMU to create the livable and sustainable city we desire?
I'm gonna jump right in on that one, if y'all don't mind. That's why I was pushing to have the high school built as soon as possible. I meet with Charlie King, Vice President, the number 2 at JMU, and John Alger, President of JMU, and their assistants with our Vice Mayor, Richard Ball, every 2.5 to 3 months. And in looking at all the projects that they're gonna have coming online, that they're gonna be building in our city, the construction costs that we're gonna pay by delaying our high school is what pushed me to say we gotta do something now. In addition to the fact that my daughter comes home and tells me she loves school, but it's just too crowded. It's unfortunate. What we've gotta do, because the door's open from JMU. They love meeting with us. We have a great relationship. I know my mayor, she stays in touch with them very often. I know George does a good job of staying in touch with them. All 5 of us do a good job of keeping the door open with them. However, you can't stop the progression, and I'm grateful. As an alum, I'm glad to see how the school has grown, because it's been good for our city as well. Because a lot of the jobs, a lot of the access, a lot of the growth in our community has come because of those individuals that are full-time employees and part-time employees at the university, and the alum, like myself, who have chosen to stay here and make Harrisonburg home. You look at the dwindled amount of African Americans that was in Harrisonburg, it's grown because of James Madison being here.
Does anybody else want to talk
Yes.
about that? Great, Frank.
I think the partnership between the city of Harrisonburg and JMU, it's about taxes. I mean, when JMU holds a big event, I don't know, I'm a season ticket holder of the football games, and when they fill up the football games, between the tailgating, between the beer, the ice, the food, the hotel, the lodging, the taxes, that's a significant amount of income that the city gets to have that comes into it. Those are some of the partnerships through the sporting events and other events that are held on campus with the Hotel Madison, that this brings in income to the city. So we need to work together with JMU. JMU's not going anywhere. Harrisonburg would not be Harrisonburg without JMU. We need to work together and to have partnerships that make sense for both JMU and the city of Harrisonburg. And Chris's comment about the construction costs going up, according to the Virginia Department of Education, actual construction costs have gone down in the last 3 years for building the schools. So I don't know where those numbers for delaying, making the costs go up. According to the Virginia Department of Education, that actually is inaccurate statement. So just want to mention that since you brought it up.
Would anybody else like to comment?
I'll just say that communication has to happen, and I know that we meet with them regularly to know what's going on. But really, I've never seen that we had much power to stop what JMU wanted to buy. A concern of many citizens is that the erosion of the tax base as they continue to buy more and more homes and take up more and more space, so it does erode our tax base that way. But I know that they do bring money into the city, so I don't know how, if it balances out or not.
Paloma?
So on my job as a executive director at Valley Aids Network, I had an opportunity to work with a lot of interns from JMU. So often when I think about JMU, I think also about the talents and the drive that these students bring, and how we can invite them into our agencies and work together with them. At one point, we had a donation of over 50 turkeys the day before Thanksgiving, and we had our interns that were not even, they were on break, and they came with us, and we delivered to their doors, to our consumer doors, turkeys. So we not only have to create and to continue to work on those partnerships when it comes to like infrastructure and taxes and all of that, but we really need to also foster and encourage those relationships that benefit our people and our community. We need to continue to invest in our community, and investing in our students, providing them those opportunities to do their internships and volunteer and work with nonprofit agencies. I think it's a great way to work with JMU.
Sal?
So I am a Duke. I love JMU. I owe a lot to the university. I can also say that I've worked in partnership with JMU throughout my years in the city schools for the last 12 years. I recently was looking at the Board of Visitors for JMU, and I was super surprised that none of those people are from Harrisonburg. You see people from out of state, New Jersey, you know, different places around the country, and I'm like, so these Board of Visitors are coming here to decide what JMU is going to do and how that's going to impact our city? You got to be kidding me. So if I become elected, I think my role would be to advocate at the state level and, you know, with our governor, so that we can get people like a city council person, somebody from planning commission, a citizen from Harrisonburg who is well invested in the community to sit in those board meetings where decisions are made. We can continue to have conversations, but the real conversations happen when we leave. So we need to be part of those discussions behind closed doors so that they see the vision of the city in a greater view rather than what is better for JMU. And I know that if we do that, we will continue to grow in a way that will work for everyone.
Great. Gonna squeeze in a couple more here. So a lot of people are concerned about financing, tax rates, things like that. And I'm just gonna pick the most to the point question from Bib Fraser, thank you. What city assets would you divest of or sell part of to provide funds to fund projects and reduce debt?
The only asset that I know that we have that could be divested of, and I'm not sure how you would go about it, is HEC. We're probably only one, I don't know of any municipalities in the state of Virginia, maybe somebody else does and can shout it out, that owns their own electric commission. But we don't, you know, we rarely generate power, only in peak hours.